Well, Happy New Year. As we jump into 2025, we're going to dive into a segment I'm titling Boundary Issues When Drawing the Line Saves Your Sanity. Coming from the tail end of all these holidays, you think about it, you're surrounded by so many family members and friends, and you're probably dealing with a lot of issues with family and friends a lot of times during the holidays. And we're going to jump into how we create that healthy boundary with friends and family as we jump in to the new year. Well, welcome to another episode of Living Fully Fit. I'm Coach AJ, and again, Happy New Year. And as we're looking into the new year, we should be looking into our new lifestyle, new choices, new habits, especially with relationships. Think about it as we're finishing off all these holidays and Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve and all that stuff. You've probably been overwhelmed with family and friends, phone calls or in person or whatever it is. And a lot of times we grew up or we're surrounding ourselves with people who are crossing boundaries in our lives all the time. And we're going to kind of really just lean in here on how we identify that, how we confront it in a healthy way, and then where do we draw the line fully and really say, this is where I'm not going to take this anymore. This is what I need to do for my own sanity, but also for my own family and for honestly my mental and relational health. So, again, the title of this is Boundary Issues When Drawing the Line Saves Your Sanity. Because we do have to draw the line here. We have to be honest with ourselves and honest with the people we're close with of what is that boundary? What are things that we will accept into our life and what we will not accept? That comes with behavior and conversation, whatever it is. Now, I'm not saying you have to be petty about every little thing and kind of pick people apart. I'm not saying you should do that either, but we have to have that happy medium, that good balance in our lives that honestly will protect our emotional and mental health and the emotional and mental health of those we love and care about. Especially, as we're getting to the tail end of the holidays, we see that quite often. People will have these, Christmas arguments with family and friends and art, and it's common. You see that a lot of times. You see movies about it where the in-laws are coming in for Christmas and everybody's driving, going nuts, and they're pulling the hair. My daughter and my wife and I, we watched a recent movie, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And in that movie, everybody's going nuts because their family's there. Now, in the end, it ends off on a sweet note. There's a lot of comedic stuff there, but a lot of it's rooted in truth, in our culture of how we see family sometimes. The in laws who just grumble and complain about everything and don't get along and all that stuff. But where do you draw the line of respect and disrespect and honoring those who are senior to you and but yet also create that line of, hey, you know what, just because you're my senior doesn't mean I'm going to take what you dish at me. And we're going to look at that. What does that mean? Culturally, we've been raised, I know I was raised this way, of, anybody who's older than you, you'll give due respect. And I think, yes, to a certain degree, we need to make sure we keep that up. We're missing that in our culture. But we also need to be aware and teach our kids this too. Where do we draw the line? Because there's been so many times where people senior to us in leadership, whether they're our teacher or uncle, aunt, parent, what have you, cross that line. And especially as you get older and you become an adult yourself, do you still hold weight on those, I guess, respectful attitudes? Now, granted, I'm not saying you should dishonor your mother and father by any means, but again, at that point, the relationship should have shifted more to a more like a partnership, not that they're not your parent in the sense that they're still raising you. They're still your parent. They brought you into this world. They raised you. But guess what? Now that you're an adult, they don't need to raise you. That means they don't have a say in your life anymore. You can take what they have with a grain of salt and maybe they have great advice for you. That's great. What can you do with that? And I think we look at this so often and we allow people, whether it's friends or family, coming into our life and we let them just kind of influence and infiltrate our relationships and our families and everything because, well, that's just the way it's always been done a lot of times. You've seen this in family reunions a lot of times. You'll have that, crazy drunk uncle who's, oh, that's crazy Uncle Chuck. He's always drunk at the family reunions. Oh, that's crazy Aunt Betty who, can't keep her hands to herself. And we just like, oh, that's just how it is. No, that's not how it is or should be. And we should be better about protecting the ones we love. Our cousins, our children especially. Oh, stay clear from grumpy Uncle Bob there because grumpy Uncle Bob will just bite your head off because he's always grumpy. Well, how about someone get some cojones and go talk to grumpy Uncle Bob and say, hey, you know what? The way you talk to the kids is wrong. Don't do that again. Otherwise, you're not welcome to family functions. Otherwise, I'm not going to bring my kids around you because you're a jerk. Same goes with, Uncle Chuck there who's drunk all the time. And these are just hypothetical names here. Just throwing names out here. Little drunk Uncle Chuck there, just always drunk at family functions, saying inappropriate things to the kids and doing dumb stuff. But we think that's okay because we've been raised and conditioned that that's okay in our family dynamic. And it's not whatsoever. I don't know who told us this and why we believed it, but it's not healthy. It's not conducive to good mental health or emotional health and good family relationship friend dynamics. And the same goes with Aunt Betty who just has to pinch your cheeks and bite your ear and weird things like that and slap your butt. Because I've seen this happen in family dynamics and it's weird. I don't know where this was allowed, where Aunt Betty has to kiss you on your lips all the time you see her. I don't know why my aunt kisses me on the lips. That's so weird. Oh, that's just crazy Aunt Betty. No, where are we drawing the line of this is not appropriate anymore? This is weird. We need to stop that. And I'm calling out to the generation before me because I think the generation before me didn't stop this. My generation, the millennials, even the Generation Z, whatever like that, the the new generation, we're seeing this. It's like this isn't right. This doesn't feel good. And to the older generation, you might be thinking, well, that's just woke ideology. No, it's not woke. It's protecting our family. To want to protect our family from the trauma we experience as kids, as younger people, is not woke. It's a ideology that, hey, we're going to protect our family, make sure we don't put our kids in situations that could potentially hurt them, that could traumatize them, because that is traumatizing. I'm sorry, but that's just weird. You shouldn't be hearing, profanities from your uncle at a reunion or whatever it is. And I'm going to tell you right now, we have to be very cautious and careful for our kids. So we have those situations, right? But I'm going to go over to, like we're going to talk about friends, we're going to talk about family members, we're talking about parents. I'm 42 years old right now, and I have my parents. I respect them, I honor them because they are older than me, they raised me. But there's also that line in the sand I've drawn in my life. If they ever were to cross it, I'm going to call them out and say, "Hey, that's not right. Please don't talk to me that way. I didn't deserve that. You don't get to tell me what I should do. You can suggest, you can guide, because that's okay. I like mentorship. Please provide mentorship if you feel I need it. But there's a way to do it in a respectful manner that they don't treat me like I'm a child again. Yes, I might be your child, but I'm not a child. And that's where we have to be very careful. We hear this phrase, especially in the Christian culture, where you're supposed to honor your mother and father. And it's just a blanket statement. But it's not so black and white. It really isn't. There is some gray. I truly believe when that commandment was written, if you really look at the context of it, it's what does honor mother and father mean? What does that look like? Does that mean you just bow down to their every wishes and you do everything they tell you till the end of your days? No, that doesn't mean that. It means that you honor their role in your life, but if there is a time and place they cross that line, that's where it's okay for you to say, you know what, call it out and say, no, this is wrong. You will not do this. You will not treat me this way. You will not talk to me this way, or my family members, my spouse, or my kids, or whatever. And here's why. And I love you, I respect you, but here's also how I expect you to love and respect me as a grown up, as an adult. And we can't be afraid of, again, drawing that line in the sand saying this is right and this is wrong. I'm not going to accept this anymore. And I think a lot of people in my generation are afraid of doing this because, again, especially in the Christian culture, we don't want to dishonor our parents because of what the Bible says. But we have to look at what does that word honor mean. So they're saying if your parent is abusive to you and toxic and cusses you out all the time and treats you a certain way, you should continue just honoring them just blindly? No. I honored their position in my life at the time. I still honor the fact that they are my parent, but I'm not going to just throw respect their way if they're not continuously working at that and giving mutual respect back. Especially now that we're all adults. That's where that whole delineation comes from. We have to really understand that. It can't just be this blanket statement that this is just the way it is and that's it. It's yes, you know what? As an adult, I'm going to give you respect. And yes, you raised me. And yes, or yes, you're my uncle, my grandma, whatever, whoever they are in your life. But point blank, we have to, for our own sanity, say, this is not good for me, or this is not good for my family. And I'm not saying the automatic default should be to cut them out of your life, but it should be to call things out and to confront. And confrontation is difficult. I get it. No one wants to be confronting someone. They don't want to confront anyone. I know confrontation sometimes is hard for me too, but we have to be willing to have those hard conversations. But the cool thing is, if you have that hard conversation early on before it builds up, then you might just be able to save the day and save the relationship. Because as it builds up, and let's say you confront it after you've exploded at them, that's not going to help anything. I think you really need to confront it as it happens. And if they're receptive, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I keep treating that way. I'm so sorry. I'll apologize to you or your spouse, whatever like that. Great. Then guess what? You've established that boundary and you've honestly kept the relationship going and strong. That's going to help improve your relationships with family members, even friends too. You have those friends that knew you when you were single, but now that you're married, they still see you as the single person. No, that's that delineation, that boundary that you're not going to cross, that boundary where you say, hey, you know what? Guess what? I'm married. I'm not going to go party with you all the time. But here's what we can do. Here's things that we can do that we still have fun and do some of the old things, but I can't do all the old things that we used to do. Again, it's about that communication, clear communication, knowing where you stand. Because when you create that boundary of understanding and clarity, then no one can say, well, I didn't know. Yeah, you did. I told you this is my boundary. Whether it's your family or friend, whatever that boundary is, as long as you communicate that clearly, you can't assume, don't ever make assumptions. Well, you should just know this is my lifestyle. No, they shouldn't. In all reality, you need to communicate. It's up to you to communicate. It's up to you to be clear and concise of what your expectations are and what you expect out of the relationship. How communication should be happening. Tonality and how you should be treated and how you should treat them. Make it very clear, hey, this is what's fair here. And that way you can, again, keep the relationship strong and growing, but also the relationship has to evolve. It cannot be the same. This goes with family, especially. I know I've seen family where they will treat you like, you've been the little junior forever. You're always junior. No, no. I'm a grown man, woman, what have you. I'm no longer little Billy or little Susie anymore. I am this adult now. I'm grateful that you got to experience me growing up. But guess what? Now that I'm an adult, here's the person I am. Here's what I expect. Here's how I expect to be treated with respect. And I will, again, to reciprocate, treat you with respect based off of your role in my life and your position in my life. But don't expect me just to dish out honor and respect if you cannot respect who I am now, especially. And if you're trying to say, well, that's not, biblical because God doesn't give conditions on honoring your mother and father, you have to look at the context of what that verse is about. Is it just a blanket honor regardless? So you're telling me that if, let's say, my father was a serial killer, that I should just honor him and help him out? No, that's ridiculous. We have to use some common sense here. God gave us a brain. If your mother was this physically or verbally abusive person while you were growing up, no, you shouldn't be honoring that. That's ridiculous. That's where we have to draw that line. It's not this blanket statement of, okay, black and white, that's it. No, there's some gray in there. So we have to be, again, cognizant that we should honor people and position in our relationships and everything like that. And we should, maintain those relationships as much as we can, but if they are toxic, if they are unhealthy, and if the other person is unwilling to see themselves, to be self aware and self reflective, then we have to have those hard conversations. And eventually, sometimes we might have to cut people out. And it might not be forever, maybe temporarily say, you know what, I need to pause. I need space for me to kind of figure this out because you're not listening to me. I gave you my boundaries. I've talked this out and you're not adhering to what I'm saying. And because of that, I need space. Maybe that's a temporary cutting out. Giving them some space. That way they can kind of figure out, oh crap, do I want to lose this person in my life? Probably not. Maybe they do. Who cares? You have to be willing to make those hard decisions, not just for you, but for the people that are under your care. Because your kids are watching you. They're going to see how you navigate through relationships, and they're going to mimic that. So you have the opportunity, as a parent especially, to protect your kids from toxic relationships, whether it's friends or family. You have the opportunity to also show them how to navigate through conflict in that aspect and to say, okay, this is how I do this in a healthy way that protects not only myself and my sanity, my mental health, but the ones that I care for my spouse, for my kids, whoever. And that's the healthiest thing we can do, especially as a father. I look at my kids. I'm never going to be that person who's going to tell my kid, "Hey, make sure to call grandpa so and so or aunt so or uncle so and so." I'm sorry, but that's their kid. That relative needs to reach out to my kid for the relationship to continue. It's not just my child should be poking the bear. No, that shouldn't be the case. Again, if there's not that relationship developed and established, I'm not going to force my kid into that relationship with a family or friend. That's just not going to happen. That's not healthy. That's uncomfortable, honestly. Like, go give people hugs. Well, what if they don't want to give that person a hug? That shouldn't be forced. We should be, again, protective. That boundary line. You go visit a family that your kids have never met. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to make my kids hug that person. If they want to, hey, great. But it's not going to be a forced thing. And let's say that family member's like, "Oh, your kids not gonna give me a hug." What, they don't know you, so no. I mean, they build up relationship with you, you're in their life, you come visit us, we come visit you, then guess what? They're gonna do it naturally because the relationship has been established. These assumed protocols in relationship and family is not healthy. They're assumed protocols. So we have to be okay, and family needs to be okay with this. I'm gonna tell you right now, here's the challenge. Be okay with making those established protocols in your life, those boundaries to say, you know what, this old way of protocol, this old way of doing things is not healthy. It never was. That's the thing. It never was healthy. It was just something we've been passing down all these generations, and no one stopped to say, you know what, this isn't right. Until now, this generation, my generation especially, has been more like, yeah, this isn't right. I don't like this. I don't want my kids to experience this anymore. We're stopping this. And so, really, this whole episode of this podcast is really to kind of challenge you to start thinking of your family, especially after the holidays. I'm sure during the holidays you experience some kind of, turmoil or conflict or whatever from family or friends. And you probably are asking yourselves, well, I don't like Christmas because I love Christmas for my kids, but man, Christmas is so stressed out because my family, we don't want to have to travel. We always travel to them. That's a boundary too. I'm sorry if your family always expects you to visit them and they never visit you ever. How about draw that line in the sand and say, I'm sorry, but we're not going to come out to visit this year because we're stressed out. We're traveling everywhere. How about y'all come visit us for once? And if they don't, it kind of tells you where do you stand in their lives in the first place. This one-sided thing needs to stop. Again, those are boundaries. Those are boundaries that are going to keep you sane. And you have to be okay with the fact that they might not come visit you. You have to be okay with the fact that they might not adhere to your protocol, your boundary, and you're gonna have to be okay with letting them go. Maybe for a season, maybe for a lifetime. I have family that I don't talk to, and it's sad. I'm hoping maybe someday there could be reconciliation. But I have family that I don't talk to because boundaries are crossed. And for my own personal, emotional, and mental health, I haven't let it go. And you know what? That was okay for my kids and for myself. And honestly, I don't feel like I'm missing on anything. I would love to have a relationship, but then again, it goes two ways. These assumed attitudes, these old school mentalities, these passed down from generation to generation ideologies needs to stop. And we need to do better for the protection of our families, our kids, but mainly ourselves. So anyways, hopefully this episode was good for you to kind of start rethinking this year of how you plan out your life, how you interact with the people that you care and love, whether it's family or friends. How do you navigate through that? How do you establish those boundaries? So start looking at what you need to do. Start writing them down maybe. Write down those boundaries in your life that people are keep crossing. And then have those hard conversations. Be honest with them and yourself and don't let go. Don't just let go and give up when they push back. No, no, stand your ground and say, you know what, this is my boundary. This is the way things should need to be for my family, for my sanity. And if we can't come up to a compromise, if you're unwilling to see it my way, then I need to take a step back and heal or focus on my family or focus on myself, whatever it is for your sanity. And if they're not willing to see that, then you haven't lost anything. I promise you. You might think you did, but in all reality, if they don't see it your way, they're not willing to kind of look at your perspective, have a little empathy, you're not missing out on anything. But anyways, thank you for watching another episode of Living Fully Fit with Coach AJ. If you find this content helpful for you as you're navigating through emotional health or mental health, relational health, physical health, or even spiritual health, make sure to subscribe down below. Hit the like button and help support this channel. And if you know anybody that can benefit from a video like this, make sure to go ahead and copy the link and share it with a friend. And if you need any help navigating through relationships and need some advice, just need a vent, drop it down in the comments. I would love to have a conversation with you and help navigate through. And if you need to just, reach out, check out my Facebook or Instagram and send me a DM. I would love to help work with you to help create those established, healthy relationships as you're navigating this new year. Thanks for watching.